for a day of action and meeting our leaders, we must share our stories and make our voices heard. Our actions must tell them how we stand for compassion and empathy for those who cannot be here today. We are all instruments of change, and today we ask the light, God Almighty, to give us the inner strength, the courage to help our communities build a more compassionate, just world. Amen. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you so much, Jasmeet. Thank you for being here and for your words. Let's all do justice together during the day. And now we'll turn it over to Paul and some guests to welcome you to our state capitol, our virtual state capitol.
Thanks, Elise. So good to see all of you, unfortunately, remotely on this annual Lobby Day, Interfaith Advocacy Day. Thank you, Jasmeet, Dr. Singh, for your wonderful words. Really, really appreciate that. Love that word, Savor, and all of that it's meaning, and especially for us here today. Being that we are remote, I'm not able to know, at least I've been checking to see if Senator Marco Elias is in our midst.
I've not seen him yet.
Okay, so I'm going to wait until we know Tyrone and others in our wonderful tech room. If you can just let me know when he has arrived, and I will wait to do that introduction then. Until then, I just want to bring you greetings from remote Olympia and do a little bit of my overview of the legislature right now. And Tyrone and others in the tech room, just feel free to interrupt me. Don't worry when Senator Elias gets here. I've checked with his office this morning, and as far as we know, he will be coming and got the Zoom link and all of that to join us. But as Elise said, welcome to the People's House in remote Olympia. And this is the long session, 105 days, and goes till April 25th. So I hope you haven't used all of your advocacy capital, your advocating voices all up already, because we have much to do yet for the rest of this session, much less the rest of this year. And we find ourselves in an incredible time as we speak. The impeachment proceedings, excuse me, are happening in the other Washington. And we know the difficult times that we are in here. The governor's mansion area being breached on January 6th, as well as our Capitol. But we know that we are a people of faith, a people of hope, and a people of courage, and continue to rise up for justice.
Senator Elias has just arrived.
That are in great need at this time, as we continue to bring an end to this horrible pandemic, much less the pandemic of racial injustices that we will speak more to in our workshops. So Senator Elias has arrived, and great to have you, Senator Elias, with us. Thank you for taking time to be with us. Just a few words of introduction for Senator Elias. I consider Senator Elias, and I'm not saying this to curry favor to try and see if he'll support a particular revenue package or anything like that. I'm just having a little bit of fun with him. But I sincerely say that Senator Elias is a social justice leader in the legislature, if I could say that. We don't oftentimes think of our elected officials like that, but we have many in this state and in this country. And we need to build the relationships with them, support them as people of faith with our various prayers, but also as Faith Action Network, put those prayers into action on the issues that public servants like Senator Elias are bringing to the halls of power. So Senator Elias is from the 21st District, which is Edmonds and Linwood. He can say more about that. Senator Elias also serves on 4 committees, on the Ways and Means Committee, on the Environment and Energy and Technology Committee, on the Higher Ed and Workforce Development Committee. And then last but not least, he serves on the Rules Committee, which I always say is kind of either the gateway or the cemetery for one's bills. And so those are 4 committees. Senator Elias stays very busy. And last but not least, in addition to all 4 of those committees, Senator Elias is the floor leader and has been for the last few years. That is an important leadership position, and I'll let him say more about that as well. Please welcome with your hands and your remote claps and thumbs up, Senator Marco Elias.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. You know, to those of you who get to work with Paul all the time, you'll know exactly what I know, which is he is the conscience of Olympia. And you know, when in the few occasions where Paul and I have been on the other side of an issue, I quickly have to look at my own motivations and my own thoughts, because there must be something wrong if Paul and I are on the wrong side of an issue. Really appreciate Paul's leadership and also the work that Faith Action Network does every session to advance, you know, the interests of Washingtonians who candidly are underrepresented and in many places ignored in our state and in our society. You know, I have the great pleasure of having grown up in the district that I represent. I was born in Edmonds at what I call Stevens Hospital. It has a new modern name now, but it'll always be Stevens to me. And I had a chance to grow up in the neighborhoods that I now represent in the Senate. Growing up, my dad was a carpenter and my mom was a school lunch lady, and we went to church and to Sunday school every week. And so I think, you know, growing up in this community and growing up with hardworking parents is sort of literally in my DNA, but it's also really shaped my public service. I think it's really important for the legislature not to focus on those who already have power and privilege and a voice, but to focus on those who are farthest from that equity. And I certainly can see in my own family's journey, my parents are both immigrants as well, you know, how hard we had to work to achieve the measures of success we've had in America. And we've got to remember that there's so many others that are following in our footsteps and need that same opportunity, need those same resources and supports that my family's been so blessed to have. So that really is what animates my service in the Senate. My predecessor, Paul Shin, talked about the opportunity to serve in the legislature as payback time. And I certainly feel that in my own life. I would not be where I am without really strong public institutions like our public schools, like the healthcare my mom got as a school lunch lady. All of the pieces of a compassionate and just society have helped me achieve success in my life, and I want to make sure we're paying that forward to the next generation. You know, and I caught the tail end of Paul's remarks. You know, we are truly in the midst of so many pandemics. We have the pandemic of COVID-19 that is on the front burner, on the headlines every day, but we also have the pandemic of climate change. We also have the pandemic of racism. We face so many of these cross-cutting challenges, and we know that some of the underlying challenges in our society, the poverty and the income inequality that have bedeviled our country for a couple generations, only make this public health crisis worse for us. Here in our state, we know that our Black, Indigenous, and communities of color are more likely to be exposed to COVID-19, more likely to contract COVID-19, and unfortunately more likely to face the worst health outcomes from COVID-19. And that's because we have a health system that is not equitable. And it's time for us, it was time a generation ago, it was time in 1968 when Dr. King was leading the Poor People's Campaign, but it is certainly time now to address some of these fundamental injustices and ensure moving forward that we address equity in health for all Washingtonians. We've seen with the vaccine rollout that, again, some of these basic inequities are playing out. Who's closest to the health system get vaccinated first. Those that are farthest from the health system get vaccinated later. And we know that that is just doubling down on historic inequities. So we have more work to do there. But we also have an opportunity in this crisis to really see and understand how we should be reordering our economy to lead to better outcomes for people. We live in a state where so many Washingtonians are suffering, and yet a couple of our global companies are making record profits. And I think this is a moment for us to grapple with that and recognize that income inequality is immoral. It is immoral to live in a society that inequitably allocates resources so that some people become dizzyingly wealthy, so wealthy that they could literally never spend the money that they have in their lifetimes. And yet so many, especially when we think about our children and our elders, the most vulnerable in our society, lack access to basic necessities like food and shelter and access to opportunity. So this is a moment for us, and really pleased to see measures like the capital gains tax this year that would make one concrete step forward to correct our upside down tax system. I was proud to co-sponsor the Working Families Tax Credit so that we could put dollars back into the pockets of the Washingtonians that are hit hardest by our unfair tax system. And all of us have seen the power of a couple $100 in the stimulus checks that the federal government has sent out, how life-changing $500 or $600 can be for a family that faces crisis. And you know, I think our lawmakers tend to be wealthier and perhaps don't appreciate the impact of $500 or $600. I certainly have seen in my own life and in my family's life how critical at the right time those investments can be. So I want to continue in that regard. We also have to confront the other pandemics that are out there. We've got to take bold action on climate change. We've got a number of measures pending this year. I was really proud earlier this week to vote for the HEAL Act, which will center environmental justice in our environmental policy making so that the communities that are most impacted by pollution are at the table to help us shape the policy response to it. Also, this is an opportunity to create jobs and opportunity. You know, one powerful way to correct income inequality is to ensure access to good family wage jobs. And we know in green construction, in green industry, in clean energy, there's opportunities to create great jobs for Washingtonians, not just in the Puget Sound core. I think about our work in cross-laminated timber that's creating jobs in north central Washington, near Spokane, out on the peninsula. We can create jobs in parts of the state that have been left behind, doing good work to reduce our emissions, to make our state more sustainable, to invest in a cleaner future for Washingtonians. We also have to address, in my mind, the threat of mass violence and mass shootings. We've seen the insurrection at the Capitol. Of course, in my community in Mukilteo in 2016, we had a mass shooting where some beautiful, innocent lives were lost just in a moment to an act of depravity and violence. We have to confront gun violence in our communities. I'm proud to be bringing legislation this year to prohibit high-capacity magazines, the favorite accessory of mass shooters, and protect Washingtonians. So we have a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. And, you know, of course, front and center is making sure that we're delivering relief to Washingtonians. Yesterday, the Senate approved and sent to the governor $2.2 billion more in assistance. That is just the next step. We're excited that President Biden and his administration appear poised to send us even more resources to help. So we are trying to address the front and center things right before us, as well as some of the systemic injustices, attempting to make changes to our criminal justice system to address the horrifyingly high incarceration rates in this state. So we're trying to address all of this at the same time, and in an environment where, as I've said, it's all the work, but very little of the joy. This remote setting means we're getting the work done, but we're not getting the human connection. I know our faith communities can sympathize with that. It's tough to worship, it's tough to legislate without that human connection, but we will make it through to the other side. and advocates like you who are doing the work of standing up for justice, standing up for equity, standing up for morality in our public spaces are critical to this work. They give me a backbone, they give our lawmakers a backbone. You call us to action and you remind us that there are much bigger questions at issue than just the bill numbers in front of us, and we have an obligation to act. So it's a joy to be with you. Paul, I don't know if I've taken up all my time, but I'd be happy to answer some questions, and it's just so wonderful to be with this group of friends.
Great. No, thank you, Senator Leah, so much for those remarks. And let's go to a couple of questions. I'm just looking in the chat room. And at least if there's any other way that we can bring forth any questions that for Senator Leas from our members.
I see lots of things and no questions yet, but if someone's ready, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
We got a couple now that are just coming into the chat room. Let me just try and go to the first one. Status on the, so I have one, Senator Leas, status on the wealth tax.
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, I think we're all really interested to see Representative Frame's proposal, and I know that she heard that bill this week. I think in the Senate, our focus is first on capital gains. That has been the proposal that has been around the longest and has been vetted the most. And so our focus is on trying to advance that legislation as the most important thing. The governor, of course, sent us request legislation on the capital gains tax. That will be front and center for us as a priority. We will, of course, take a look at the wealth tax. That is a newer idea that has just come to us this session. And so I think we're trying to sort of, you know, do this in a systematic way. I support taking a look at the highest income Washingtonians and having them contribute more. I think the capital gains tax is the first step, and then we'll look at a wealth tax, or there's been some high earner payroll tax conversations as well. I think we need to spend some time there to make sure that we are comprehensively addressing the tax code and making our wealthiest Washingtonians, those that have seen record profits in this crisis, chip in as well.
Thanks, Marco. Let's see, the next one I see here is obvious about the public health system, and the question is particularly not just funding it, but the question is reforming our public health system via House Bill 1152, which I believe is Representative Riccelli's bill in terms of public health boards. But you could just speak to the
I mean, I would just say at a high level, our public health board should not just be politicians. We should have public health experts on those boards of health at the local level. And we've seen in a couple of jurisdictions, public health officers removed because they were doing what was right from the science, but didn't necessarily, wasn't politically as popular. And that's not just in Washington. We've seen that around the country. I think we've got to make sure that our public health officials, whether it's in this pandemic or whether it's addressing the other public health crises that we face, are able to follow science, not just politics. So I haven't followed exactly where Representative Riccelli's bill is. I know the governor's office has requested that legislation. They're working with him on it. My interest is let's make sure that there's actually public health experts on those local boards of health, not just politicians. And the details, I think, will be worked as the process continues.
Thanks, Senator Leas. Why don't we go to, I'll take two more for your time with us. The status, because I know you're on the Senate Environmental Committee, the status on moving to all electric vehicles by 2030.
Well, I actually sponsored the companion bill to Representative Macri's bill on that. I think we have a broad conversation taking place on climate this year, from looking at putting a price on carbon through a cap and invest, or through a carbon fee proposal, all the way to measures like getting rid of natural gas or going to all electric by 2030. So we're in the process of prioritizing and coming up with what are the measures that have the most support and moving those across the finish line. I don't yet know if all electric by 2030 will shake out into that top priority or not, but what is clear is we're sending a message, and we've already seen GM announce that they're phasing out gas-powered vehicles. Volvo, as I understand it, is close behind as well. And so we're seeing the marketplace respond to what states like California and Washington are doing. I want to keep pushing on this. Whether we do it this year or whether we do it next year, that remains to be seen, but we are going to get to a place where by 2030, 2035, gas-powered vehicles will be part of the past and will be all moving forward together into a clean energy future. I'm going to keep pushing on it, but I don't yet here on February 11th know exactly where it's going to shake out. We'll keep pushing to make as much progress as we can this year.
And a question on the, I know that we at FAN are working closely with you, with the lobby team on the greater access programs for those who attend our community technical colleges. You are actually the prime sponsor of that bill. You want to just say anything? We're going to have a workshop on that later on, but
it's so critically important. I work part-time as a community college professor at Everett Community College, and our community colleges are a critical pathway to opportunity for folks. We have 36 of them. So in every community in Washington, this is a pathway that exists because of the college grant program we set up in the last budget. Community college is free for a lot of Washingtonians. We need to make sure that our colleges reflect the communities that they serve. So the bill asks us to really focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, on faculty diversity, and on making sure that the faculty at our community colleges are treated with dignity and respect. And sadly, my colleagues who are full-time professors do not get paid even what our K-12 teachers get paid today. We need to make sure that we respect the work of the folks who are in the system doing that education. I will say, and Paul, as you have your workshop on it, that our colleges are raising that specter of local control, which we can remember back a couple generations ago what that is code for. And they're saying they want the local control to decide whether to do diversity, equity, inclusion work. They want the local control to decide whether they can do faculty diversity work. I would say respectfully, there is not a college in our state that shouldn't be thinking about diversity, equity, inclusion without doing faculty diversity work. And so I want to make sure that that stays in the bill, and we're going to need folks like you helping push us to say local control matters on some things, not on important moral questions like undoing structural racism. That is something that the state has to be pushing everybody on.
Great. So I think perhaps let's end with this one because this has to do with the remote session we're in and the limitations of that, but also some greater opportunities as well in terms of access. But what would you say, given that in a remote session we're not going to be able to have the usual number of bills to come through the system? What would be some of the three highest priorities? You could do it in areas, however you want to deal with it, Senator.
Yeah, I mean, the three things that our caucus have said are top of mind priorities are defeating COVID-19 and doing everything we can there, economic recovery, helping provide relief to families and businesses who are struggling in this moment, and addressing equity and the structural racism we see in our state. Those are our top three priorities. We've also then identified kind of the next level that we've got to keep our eyes on: climate change, health equity, educational opportunity, fixing our economy, and particularly our tax code. But the things that we're not going to leave this session without doing are defeating COVID-19, providing relief to families, and making progress on more equitable future for our state. We're going to do as much as we can, as we always do, but that hopefully will give you some lens for what and we've seen it in the first couple weeks of floor action. Those are the things that are going to come to the floor first, are things that are helping us beat the virus, help folks recover, and addressing equity in our state.
Senator Leas, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. We know your days are always busy, especially during this session, especially as we approach the cutoff on Monday. Thank you so much. Can we please put your remote hands and your real hands together for Senator Leas?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good to be with you, friends.
Thanks, Marco.
Thank you so much, Paul and Senator Leas. Thank you for being with us. And there were a lot of good questions that came. Maybe in our afternoon session, we can get to some of those that are still lingering if they haven't been answered. So the next part of our next half hour, we just want to give you an overview of what you need to know for today, which is happening. So first off, I want to introduce yet another staff member. Several of our staff will speak to you about what to look for, what do you need, and we'll try to respond to your questions in the chat as well. But first I want to introduce Jaspreet Singh, who is another of our organizers who has been working specifically with this Great Communities for Our Colleges Coalition that you just heard about from Senator Leas, and can tell you about why it's important to advocate.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So last session, I ended up having the pleasure of working in Olympia for the entirety of the session. And while doing so, I realized that a lot of people don't actually understand the importance of advocacy and why it's so important for us to show up in Olympia and to voice our concerns and our opinions. First, I'd like to make sure and acknowledge that all of our human experiences matter. Oftentimes when people are making policy, it's very easy to take the spirit of the policy out and just focus on the who, what, when, where, and how. But what ends up happening when people meet constituents is that you bring the stories back in. You bring in the people that are going to be impacted by these policies and by these decisions. And particularly it hits home when it's people from your own district willing to come out and speak and take the entire day to come and advocate for things that are very, very important to them. And quite frankly and quite literally life-changing. It's very, very important for us to remember that our stories make us who we are. Our stories are what carry on our generations, and our stories are what create the future that we're looking for. So today, when we speak up, when we speak to our representatives, when we speak to our senators and representatives in general, remember that it's not just about the policies, but also how those policies affect every single one of us. There's a reason why I speak about community and technical colleges, because I was a Running Start student. I recently just got out of the system. There's a reason that Senator Leas speaks about immigrant families and talks about the healthcare system. There's a reason that we all care about whatever we care about. There's a reason why we're rising up today. And so I think it's very important for us to make sure that our elected officials know exactly why we rise up today. So it's very, very important and integral to our democracy that we share our stories and information, because oftentimes our electeds have to be miles wide and inches deep. Today's our chance to make them inches deep in all the things that we care about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Really appreciate you being with us and sharing your perspective as a former legislative aide. Next, I believe, is Tara Miller-Berry, who is a very talented staff person at FAN. She makes videos, she makes backgrounds, but she also tracks so many things for us. So Tara's going to tell you how to advocate today, but also tools you might need for the session going forward.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to share mostly what's in our packet that hopefully you've received. If someone can drop that link in the chat, otherwise I will get it after I'm done speaking. So this is what our IFAD virtual packet looks like. There are a ton of things in here that can help you today. I'm going to go through a few of those. So the first thing you'll see is this folder for workshop backgrounders. We'll have workshops later today, and these will have more information. We also have it on our website, but one-pagers about the bills that will be discussed. And so that might be helpful for you when you're ready to speak to your legislators, so you know more about the bill. So that folder is a really big one. Another one you'll find is best practices for your caucus meetings. That's the next section we'll be going to here today. So this kind of shows you how to structure your caucus time so that you can come up with 1 to 3 issues you'll be talking to your legislator with later today or tomorrow. So we won't have a particular person leading your meetings. So maybe if one of you in the group has this page open, you can kind of go through the steps together and make sure you're prepared. So that will be the next thing that we go to. There's 2 different papers that are about how to do legislative meetings. So just some tips on preparing your Zoom link or Microsoft Teams link, because some of our legislators are using Microsoft Teams. I know most of us have been doing Zoom during COVID, but Microsoft Teams, if you have the link, you can just click it and you're ready to go. So you don't have to have an account for that. And then some of the important links that you can use from FAN's website to get ready for your bills. And then, yeah, so just go through here if you have questions on how to do legislative meetings. I will do a lot of details with this in the advocacy workshop if you want to come join me for that. This is just one example from Disability Rights Washington that I put in the packet on how to do the virtual testimony. That's not as much what we're doing today, but throughout the session, this will be useful for you since everything is online now. That's another thing I'll be going over in the advocacy training group. But if you want to know more, kind of like a step-by-step, what are my options for emailing, calling, testifying, just marking pro or con, all of that will be here. And they also have one on the leg.wa.gov website. So another reminder about what we have on our website, we've got our legislative agenda, issue fact sheets, and the bill tracker that shows you where a bill is during the session and how it's moving forward. And so I updated that last night. It should be ready to go if you want to reference it when you talk with your legislators. So I think that's all I have to share. There's a ton more information I will share if you join the advocacy group, or we have a recording of our pre-session gatherings on YouTube that you can reference if you want to attend a different workshop today. So thanks.
Thanks, Tara. See, you can make packets even if you are virtual in virtual environments. So please take some time with that. Sorry we didn't get it to you earlier, but it's there for you now. We'll put the bit.ly, if someone can put the bit.ly in the chat, it's probably easier that way. Next up, wanted to introduce to you Victoria Fair, who is our University of Washington Master of Social Work practicum student working with us all year, and has just brought a lot of good energy and attention to the details of things like all your appointments. So Victoria's going to talk to you about what your appointments might look like.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Victoria Fair. I'm a grad student at University of Washington, and I'm here completing an internship with FAN. So Eldine and I worked really hard to schedule these meetings. We had some rescheduled even up until this morning. The nature of virtual meetings just makes it really messy and tight to try and schedule. But Eldine and I, again, just worked as hard as we could to get you as many appointments as possible. If you did not get an appointment with one of your legislators, feel free to just reach out to their office directly, and you can try and schedule an appointment as a constituent. For the drop box, there are listed face sheets for each district, so you'll be able to see the pictures of your legislators and just some quick facts. And in the Dropbox, there are also the master list of appointments. So if you lose any of your Zoom links or you can't find an email, feel free to just look there. If for some reason no one in your district can attend a meeting, please go ahead and just reach out to the office of the legislator and cancel. And if you registered before a deadline, your name was put on a guest list for your district meetings, so you will not be able to attend meetings outside of your district. Again, we hope you enjoyed talking with your legislators today and at the few appointments that are tomorrow. And if you have any questions, Eldine and I will be in the main room while you are caucusing.
Thanks, Victoria and LD. And I just have to say, it was more challenging than ever to find all those links. We can't just send you to a room over at the Capitol building where you can ask somebody where that room is. We just had a lot of links to track, and we hope they work for you. Did Victoria say? Maybe she did, and I'm just going to say it again. You can click on a link, or you can copy it and paste a link into your browser. Some people were saying this link isn't working, but you click on it or you copy and paste it into your browser to get to a meeting. Many more questions like that we can answer at the help desks of Ian, Tyrone, and Eldine, and any of us that are staff that you recognize. We're not going to leave Paul just 3 minutes this time. Paul, I'll give you more than 3 minutes, but maybe only about 13, I don't know. But we want to leave room for Q&A here too if there are specifics before the next thing, which will be going into your caucus meetings.
Thanks, Elise. Again, great to have all of you together this morning. And as I was mentioning before Senator Elias came on board, this is our long session, meaning 105 days, goes till April 25th. So please know that this is an important day, but one day, and we can help schedule meetings later on. Hope that you continue the conversation, if you know what I mean, beyond today with your legislator or the staff of the legislator, and follow up with a thank you, follow up with other points that you want to make, and continue to work with those in your legislative district. That is so important, and the FAN staff stands ready to help with that to continue to organize in each of our legislative districts. A couple other really important points that I want to make regarding the legislature this session, besides the remoteness and of it. Tara has given some really good tips and links about that. Most of those you can find on our website. But the two historic ones that I want to lift up to you in these difficult times that we're going through as a country, and referring to the multiple pandemics that we're going through. One is, never before in this country that I've heard of has there been elected to public office someone who is formerly incarcerated. We have that this year in Washington State, in the 23rd Legislative District, which is Kitsap County, Bainbridge Island area, Bremerton area, in the name of Tara Simmons. And Tara will be, I'm hoping to be able to be available for us at the very end of the day, if you can hang around or come back at 12:45. Representative Tara Simmons will be addressing us at that time. Tara is also the first formerly incarcerated and she had to challenge it because of the Bar Association's restrictions to the state Supreme Court, to be now the first attorney, first formerly incarcerated person to be an attorney in our state. The other one that I want to lift up is the racial justice piece of our state legislature. We have 147 legislators. We have more members of color than ever before. And we have historic numbers of legislators who are African American. We have 9 African Americans serving in our state legislature now, to the point where we have an African American caucus, as well as a members of color caucus. And FAN works closely with those on numerous issues. Probably the most important one is on police reform. So the only other thing I want to mention, as we're nearing our break time here, is that this is a critical juncture in our state legislative session. As I mentioned, we have 15 weeks. Those 105 days, total 115 weeks. We are in week 5, and right around the corner on Monday is the first round. There are 2 rounds of cutoffs. It's a time clock. Once it starts, There is a continuing time pressure by which to get bills through. The first one is the policy cutoff on Monday, and the following Monday on the 22nd of February is the fiscal cutoff. If the bill has any kind of price tag to it, any kind of monetary impact, that's the cutoff for that. And then the final cutoff of the first round is what is called the House of Origin cutoff. That's on March 9th. So that means if it's a House bill, it's got to be out of the House on or before March 9th. And same way with if it's a Senate bill, it needs to be out of the Senate by March 9th. And then it goes through, the bills go through the same process in the opposite chamber. I think I'm going to, I don't know, do we have time for one or two questions, Elise? I know there were several questions that didn't get addressed, and I will be around like at about 12:05, 12:10 for about 30 or 40 minutes until Representative Simmons comes on for questions and debrief then too. So I'm just going back in the chat room to scroll back if there are questions. And so here's one about police reform on House Bill 1310. Of course, I'll be doing the criminal justice workshops where we'll be discussing police reform. That is, as Senator Elias mentioned, he didn't mention specifically police reform, but I think that's what he was referring to when he talked about equity and racial equity issues. House Bill 1310 is to sharpen, if I could say it that way, our use of deadly force statute. Unfortunately, as the person put in the chat room, Section 6 of that bill is the really critical piece about making it into law that use of deadly force be a last resort. And that has been pulled out of the bill. Currently, that bill is up for executive session, meaning that it will be up for approving amendments and discussion on amendments and final passage of the bill out of the House Public Safety Committee. There's a huge disappointment. We've expressed that, myself and others, a couple of nights ago in a negotiating meeting with legislators, especially the Democrats. So at this point in time, I don't know what more we can do other than to continue to make our voice heard on that. And do know there are many other police reform bills that we are working on and will be very critical, such as House Bill 1267, the Establishing Independent Investigation Office, and the House Bill 1054 that's on prohibiting police tactics. So I think with that, we better move to the break time. Huh?
Yeah. And Paul, could you put those cutoff dates in the chat for everyone?
Sure.
That's
Sure.
one question, just so we have them visually.
Yep.
So now we're going to take a stretch break in 1 minute, and then we're going to move into our caucus meetings. Tyrone is setting up 1 through 49 districts labeled 1 through 49 for your legislative district. Hopefully you know what your legislative district is. If you don't know, Tara, would you put leg.wa.gov into the chat, and you can go to that site and find your district by putting in your address. So workshop leaders, thanks for joining us. We have a great lineup of some of our coalition partners who really are the experts on the issues that we work on. We work in coalition with them to bring faith community voices, faith advocates to the table. So we are delighted that you're with us. They're going to present quickly, and they're going to present about what is really important, what's moving right now that you can advocate on in your meetings in their subject area.
You can use that either way for any questions or sharing about how your meetings went. And any questions, of course, about next steps, but I'll share some of that specifically as we get closer to our 12:45 mark. 12:40. So,
Paul?
there's, yeah, Nikki. If everybody wouldn't mind introducing themselves, just name and your ledge district, where you're from, your faith community or organization, I think that would really be wonderful. Thanks, Nikki.
Okay, Nikki Olson, Olympia Zen Center. Paul, this question is for you. I don't seem to be smart enough to use the chat, but could you send me an email and tell me when the appointment with JT Wilcox is?
Okay, maybe
if
somebody.
It hasn't already happened, if I haven't already missed it.
Yep, I see Eldine here, and I'm sure Eldine or somebody will be able to get you that appointment information.
Thank you.
Yep, and that's for Ledge District 2, right, Nikki?
Yes.
Yep. Thanks, Eldine, and whomever
Nikki,
else.
that appointment is tomorrow, but you and Paul can go to that together, but it's tomorrow.
Awesome. Yes, as it turns out, I can do both districts. So I want to do that. I got something to say. Thank you.
Let's email about that offline on
yeah.
Nikki.
Since it's tomorrow, we can do it at the end of the day.
Good to know that you'll be coming. Yep. Others? Oh, Helen.
Oh, Paul, I attended.
Introduce yourself, Helen. We want to know who you are.
Okay. Helen Stoll from Kingston, Bethany of Bainbridge, Bethany Lutheran of Bainbridge Island, 23rd District. I attended economic justice and healthcare, and both were excellent. Thank you to you and your staff for organizing such a great bunch of presenters. I wanted to encourage everyone to look for the link to the slide deck for economic justice, because it's really helpful basic information about how do we get to raising the money to do the things that need to be done. So I think at some point they promised they would give us the link, or they would get the link to Elise. So that's it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And I think that was the workshop where we had folks from our workshops. And thanks to Elise for setting all those up. Highlights our partners, and we have many partners, social justice partners. In that one, I think the Center for Budget and Policy, who are really the experts on our state budget and revenue/taxation measures. And so we thank them for being a part of that and presenting. Other
Paul, this is Kathy Esparza in Vancouver from beautiful Savior Lutheran Church. I attended the first workshop on immigration, and I just have to share, and I want to thank everybody that participated in it. It warmed my heart that there were so many churches and people advocating for immigration that I was felt really, I was compelled by their stories, and I applaud them. Can you tell me, Paul, tomorrow for District 49 where I go or how I get there?
Thanks. I'll leave that to Eldine and Elise and some of our staff that have been working on those many appointments. So this is one for tomorrow in Ledge District 49 for Kathy Esparza. Thanks, staff.
Thank you.
You bet, Kathy. Yep.
Hi, Paul. This is Ted Haza from Edmonds.
Yeah, Ted.
Trinity Lutheran Church. Haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. I just wanted to say thank you. Kind of similar what I think Kathy just shared. I went to the climate crisis workshop with Jessica Zimmerly, who was really wonderful. And the energy that she brought just to a Zoom kind of workshop, a short one, as well as also the workshop on advocacy, who was really energetic. I wrote down her name, but I forget her name. But Tara, I think.
Yeah,
I just said,
Barry.
well, I think I've just been, especially in the COVID era, I've been really starved for, it's hard to generate your own energy sometime. And so I thank you, thank Fan, and certainly Tara, Jessica and Maddie, I think. So.
Thank you, Ted. Much appreciation. We thank you for your support, because your support enables, and everybody else enables us to have a staff like we do. So, and we thank you for your faith community, Trinity Lutheran in Linwood, the district where Senator Elias is the state senator, has many great advocates, and we thank you for keeping them organized and waving the fan flag, so to speak, that we encourage all of you to do within your faith communities. And this is a primary time to do that. Just highlight something from our weekly alerts, or even our website, or that your congregation, your faith community is a part of the fan network would be essential. Other questions that folks might have? We haven't heard any from, if you've been at a meeting this morning, about how any of your meetings went. We've heard a lot of good things about workshops, which is terrific. Any legislative aid meetings that people want to share about?
Eric Johnson.
Thanks, Eric.
From the 40th LD, we visited with Amanda Hubick at Alex Rammel's office, and she's not paid enough. She's really informative, had a good grasp of all the issues, probably one of the best legislative assistants I've seen. So it was a great visit. So I returned from that and went to the affordable housing breakout session with Michelle from the Washington Low Income Housing Group. And she was awash with information. And I wish we had her slides today in hand, because a lot of our legislators sit on the exact panel we need to talk to about pass this bill, get it out of committee, whatever it may be. So it would have been nice to have that yesterday. That's always a story with these sort of things.
Eric, thank you for all of that. And Eric is from the Episcopal Parish in Anacortes, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, you just joined. They're one of our newest members of our statewide advocating faith community network, and we thank you for joining and thank you for being present.
Pleasure.
Do know that this, I think Eric's point about having the information, and do know that you continue to advocate on these bills beyond today, because we are early in the session, meaning that all those bills have to go to the other chamber. So that is the time then to focus on, either if it's a Senate bill, to focus on your state reps on that bill, or if it is a House bill moves to the Senate, for you to focus on your state senator. And always let them know that you're a part of FAN and that you're a member of a local faith community. I think that's really important as well in your communication.
Deb Avery, Vancouver, Washington, 17th District. I had it was a great opportunity in the gun responsibility workshop with Dylan, because I come from a pretty unique legislative district where two of my representatives, even refused to meet with fans. So I was able to ask him some strategies. How do you best communicate with your House representatives that are getting thousands and thousands of messages? Don't you dare pass that open carry bill, So he was able to give me some good tips about how to address that. I found that very helpful.
Deb, thanks so very much. And we do have a special place for so many of our fan members that live in districts that are very, very difficult in terms of elected officials. And I think the main thing is to remain united and to remain faithful, and know what you're up against, which I know you do, but to remain united in that effort and to lean on us at FAN, as well as our partners. And AGR, the Alliance for Gun Responsibility, is a significant organization in this state that has really helped pass some initiatives. Obviously, it's the voters that pass or defeat initiatives, but it is the organizations behind it that make it successful. And AGR, again, the Alliance for Gun Responsibility, has great capacity to do that. And so we are glad to partner with them.
Paul?
Yes, Jay.
I wonder if Ann could share some of those tips, or Deb Avery could share some of those tips. I am in the same district as her, but I think that everybody might benefit from hearing some of those.
Deb, do you want to share one or two from that Dylan passed along to you?
Well, mainly it is about talking about numbers. So, and the constant communication, because all their communications are recorded. So when you communicate, you can say, I know that you have a large number of asking you, but here's why me and 800 or 900 along with me feel differently about this. And mainly, what are you going to do to move this through? Because to try and get them to commit on when they're going to be able to say, yes, we'll pass this and move it on. So that's the main tip that I got for him regarding that. And then to mainly focus with the SB, there's two SB bills, open carry and high capacity. SB 5038 and 5078, and those seem moving pretty good. So for the Senate, to encourage the continued support of that, to move those through. That's the main things I would. And Tara, I can talk to you more. You and I can talk more later, since we're in the same dilemma with 17th. So
yeah, thanks, Deb, for that. And the other thing I'd recommend, and this kind of gets in the next steps category, we can go back and forth, is, and FAN certainly stands ready to help with this, any of our staff, and that is meeting yourselves within your district. So we oftentimes do that in the fall through our cluster gatherings, but it doesn't have to be just once a year. I think it's really important for the progressive faith community in that legislative district to come together in any way that we can help do that in terms of strategizing on some of these difficult bills. We know your member of Congress is not always the easiest to work with and simply just to meet with. But I think when we act together, we can even have a stronger voice.
Oh, I have a quick question. This is Karen. Is there a House companion bill to SB 5160, the eviction reform bill?
They're not really, there are companion bills this remote session, but they are not really moving companion bills, at the same time. I don't think there is. That Senator Kuderer's bill around extending and reforming eviction laws in our state. Not that I know of. I would just focus on 5160. That, and I'm quite sure the Senate Democratic leadership is very committed to passing that bill out. I believe it's in rules now. I'm not sure, but
Actually, Paul, you're correct. There is no companion, but it is in Ways and Means right now.
It's in Ways and Means, so it does have a fiscal impact. Trev, thanks so much for that.
Not a problem.
And Representative Macri's bill, has to do with just cause, so it's similar, but it's not a companion bill. That's House Bill 1236, and we want to encourage movement of that bill as well.
Okay, because I will be speaking to my House reps after this, so I will speak about that one then.
Yeah.
And then with Ruben Carlisle, I'll speak about the SB 5160. Okay.
Yeah, and you're in the 36, is that right,
yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's, with Ruben, I would spend I mean, you do what you're going to do. Obviously, that's always a good one. That's probably going to be should be a softball for him. I would bring up revenue. Even as a senator of a very, very, very blue district, Senator Carlisle continues to be a bit of a stumbling block for capital gains and for working families tax credit. So
okay, that sounds good. I want your strategic advice. Thank you.
Yeah. If any of you have afternoon meetings, we can utilize this time. We're at 12:25 for any of that. And I see Sally.
Thank you. So I don't know if you can answer this, but tell me where I can find out. So in my economic justice workshop today, Babayan and Vinanek talked about our Washington State's tax structure being the most regressive in the nation, and they had some references. And I like those references, so I don't know where to go to get them.
Within 5 minutes, I'll put a link up. It's the itap.org website, Institute for Taxation Economic Policy, and you want to look for Who Pays 6th edition. I'm in the midst of getting that link. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Let me add to Steve's. This is Helen Stoll in Kingston. Let me add to your watch for the link that should be up on FAN to the presentation that there are two people who made a presentation this morning in our groups, and their slides are just excellent.
Thanks, Helen. And Sally, that came from Steve Claggett. Just give a plug for Steve and Jane Sisk. They are the co-chairs of our economic justice work group. And I think many of you are on that listserv and get their emails. And any of you are always welcome to join that work group of FAN that deals a lot with revenue and taxation issues. Melda.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Paul, for your presentation on criminal justice and particularly in police reform. I was really enlightened about the number of bills that are up on these issues and how urgent they are, considering last summer and how there was a woke up experience for many people across the country. In regard to that, I see it as really important for our church members to be, to speak up and make their positions heard, particularly in a church community that likes or very much focuses on social justice issues. I didn't attend the Advocacy 101 because I had it last year, but then it occurred to me that I probably should have because of the unique challenge of communicating with our church communities. The only vehicle we have right now is a parish bulletin full of links that can get kind of confusing. And so I'd appreciate any follow-up on that might be available on ways that people have worked around COVID and communicating and mobilizing their faith communities.
I can speak to that if you want.
Great.
Thank you.
Both because I led the workshop, but also my church is interested in things like that as well. And so we do a virtual service, which I assume a lot of people do these days. And I've taken fans like weekly take action, like 2 or 3 bills that we do in our e-news. And then I turn that into a video and say, here's the faith reason why you should advocate. Here are 2 bills you can do. And then I give them that link. And so if anyone wants to see that, I can send the sample, but that's just one way that I've done that.
That would be great. I'd really appreciate having a sample to work off of and find a way to get in touch with you for that.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Imelda. For those of you that have that your faith community is a quote official member of FAN, I would really urge you to make sure that FAN is listed on your faith community's website, and that should be easy for you to find out who your webmaster is, who handles your faith community's website. and make sure that FAN is somehow highlighted on that XYZ faith community, whatever the name of your faith community is a part of Faith Action Network, and not to do another link, but to, you know, at least show the link to our website, or maybe even a couple sentences about who Faith Action Network is, would be really, really helpful to make sure that is on your faith community's website. And then, of course, in your e-news, like Tara was sharing with Imelda, just even a link to our weekly alerts e-news would be important.
I do a weekly Take 5. So everybody knows what's going on here at FAN and stuff. So thank you so much.
And who is that? Barbara Anderson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Barbara. Just share a little bit about who you are.
I'm a member of the Keystone UCC and a member of FAN. And every week I put out a Take 5 newsletter, and I send it out to our 100 participants, and we get a lot of clicks, and it's helpful for them to know what is going on every week right now at the legislature. So you can put it in your newsletter, you can put it in a weekly email, you can do it however you think is best for your church, but it works. So
Barbara, would you mind putting your email address in the chat room? And that way, if folks wanted to see what you send out electronically
yes.
to your church members at Keystone, that would be
yes,
terrific.
I will.
Thank you.
I would like to issue a challenge to everybody on this call, just because we can. We have featured Barbara's good work at Keystone and doing Take 5 tables. Tara Miller-Berry has made a video about her faith community's Take 5 table. Plymouth in Seattle has Take 5 tables at coffee hour. We can do this virtually. So if you do it at your synagogue, at your gurdwara, at your mosque, at your church, send us a picture and we'll feature you. It's just a great way to remember. It doesn't take long. Tara will make links in every e-news that you can click on something once and reach all your legislators. It's just a really good, effective way still in this age. Sorry, that was just a little commercial.
Thanks, Elise. Yes, FAN has amazing resources and staff, so don't let us be underutilized.
And I'm having a hard time. I'm old, so every time I type a message, it says privately. How do I get that privately out of there?
That's a good thing for everybody to know. There's a little drop down that says everyone or someone in particular. So just go to everyone in meeting if you want to talk to everyone.
Thank you.
And if you have a particular question about your appointments coming up that we haven't answered yet, please do that drop down to help, Eldine Montgomery, help, and we'll try to figure it out.
All right, thanks. Go ahead, Alice.
Paul, you reminded me when you mentioned Reuven Carlisle that often politicians are pretty capable of talking around issues like taxes. Do you have some clues about how to get around that?
Well, I think, and you are their constituent, right? In these meetings, you are their constituent. And there's two things that are really important to an elected official is money and numbers. And money and numbers come from constituents. Obviously, they come from a lot of other places. We know that. But you should be, as a constituent, vitally important to that elected official. And of course, that varies by district and by individual. But with Senator Carlisle, I would, one, make sure that he doesn't suck up all the oxygen in the room, meaning that make sure you ensure you've got some time to talk, because that is one, there are a lot of ways in any human conversation, dialogue, to avoid a certain topic. And I think you just need to be honest, especially with Senator Carlisle, and just say, okay, capital gains tax, Senator Carlisle, you know, the members of your district are overwhelmingly supportive of instituting a tax on capital gains in this state. Do you support your constituents on that? I mean, you know, almost reverse it, right? You know, look, the vast majority, and he knows that. So I don't know what else to say on that, Alice, other than that, to be, you know, to keep pinning him down as much as you can. I don't know if that helps at all or not, but I got to go to other questions here. Let's go, Imelda, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Rick. We haven't heard from Rick. Rick, just introduce yourself a little bit. And
I'm Rick Heinbaugh from North Lake Lutheran Church in Kenmore. I'm in the first district, live in Bothell. So first, tremendous workshops for climate change and economic justice. Those people could have spoken for a couple more hours and still put out lots of valuable stuff. It was great. But meeting with my representative, she mentioned, somebody asked her if she'd seen the fan email, the list of fan issues. And she said she gets a lot of emails and it kind of sounded like she didn't have time to read them all. How do I take that with communicating with my representative? Do I just assume that there's an assistant in the room that's going to be reading them and let her know the summary, or what?
Rick, I think it's really important to make sure that one, that you know the issues that you want to talk about in the meeting, and that two, even more important, is the follow-up, and that you thank them for the meeting no matter how it went, and if it didn't go well, make sure that you reiterate your point of what you were trying to get across.
And is that by email?
I would say email is probably going to be your best communication during the legislative session. As you can imagine, how many thousands and thousands of constituents, and in the House they usually just have one staff person, unless they're a committee chair. So one person fielding all those emails is an inundating task. On the Senate, they usually have at least a second person. But I would say yes, email. And this would be a good, being that we're almost at 12:40, we're getting to the close of our time together in this debrief session, is to not forget the interim time. After April 25th, the 105th day, the last day of the legislative session, we kind of go back into our norm in terms of advocates. But the advocacy garden still needs to be tilled. And that is a time when you can even have more time during the interim. So like May through December, you can have like up to 30 minutes meeting with your legislator. And FAN is very willing to coordinate that. Just let us know if you'd like to have a meeting like that, or with your member of Congress. FAN is, again, very willing to set those up and to coordinate those with other faith members in your district. And I'll give a plug that we could really use. We have our LDC, our Legislative District Coordinator Program, basically volunteers who have stepped up to the plate to say, I will do the impossible task of trying to coordinate all of the FAN members, people of faith in this particular legislative district. And if you'd like to consider doing that, just let me know, or any of our staff, and we will share more information about that, what that looks like. So that's more than you probably wanted, Rick, in terms of your question, but thanks for that. Let's go to Imelda.
Yeah, I just had a quick Zoom 101 question. How do you get back to the chat information after the meeting is over? There's so much information I want to get back that people put links on and stuff, and I can't do right now, but I could do later. Is there a way to get back to that?
How about this?
We will do our best to save it. and to edit it. There's a lot of information in there that not everybody needs, but it won't be tomorrow, but we will try to get that information to everyone who attended afterwards.
That would be great, because I need
Yeah.
to make a report to my group, and that would be helpful.
There's a
Thank you.
button that says file just to the right of your to everyone. And if you save it to a file, you get the whole thing unedited.
Oh, great. Thank you.
The little ... right next to file.
Go
is
to the
what you have
three
to click.
dots next to it and click Save File.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Imelda. And Tyrone and others, just let me know when Representative Simmons comes into the waiting room, and we'll put her on. Like all the legislators, they have an extremely busy schedule, but
Hey, Paul?
We plan to pin her immediately.
Okay,
Hey,
thanks.
Paul?
Yes, John.
Check the chat box. 5141 got passed through the committee, is now going to Ways and Means.
Help us out, John. What's 5141?
Yeah, it got through that Environment, Energy Committee, now going to Ways and Means.
Yeah, but what's the bill do, John?
Oh, that one's due by February 22nd.
What does the bill about? What's the bill do?
The HEAL Act.
The HEAL
HEAL Act.
Act.
Everybody
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Much appreciated. Imelda.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot to take my hand down.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
sorry. We'll fix
That's
that.
all right. It's 12:42, and thank you again for all your advocacy, for attending Faith Advocacy Day. Please know that tomorrow is another advocacy day. Every day is a day to advocate for those issues that we care deeply about. And we thank you for the many, many passions that our faith community, our progressive faith community across the state have. And we'll just stay on until Representative Simmons comes. And I hope it still works out for her. I'm always, during the legislative session, I'm always a bit on pins and needles that something else came up and they're not able to join us. But Paul Winterstein, Paul, please, what's your question? Great having someone from West Seattle with us in the great 34th Legislative District. Paul, can you hear me?
He's muted.
Yeah. Paul, you're muted if you're trying to speak. That darn mute button. Oh, it's Boots. Yep. There we go. Go for it, Boots.
That was a mistake. I'm delighted to talk with you, but I really wasn't intending to do that. Sorry about that. But it's good to see you and hear you.
Thank you, Boots. Good to see you as well. You keep advocating, get after those 3 legislators in the 34th.
Yeah. They need so much getting at.
I know. Let them know you support them.
I
We
see
do,
Heidi
we do.
with
Yep.
her hand up.
Yep.
I have a
ahead,
question. My meetings with Melanie Morgan and Kirby are tomorrow morning. How do I get tech support tomorrow if I need it?
Heidi, that's a great question. We didn't speak to that. You know, we tried to get all the appointments for the afternoon, not possible. So there are some appointments tomorrow. You should have the link. You should have the phone number for that office. At that point, it will be the office that will be your best connection. If you're having trouble, you should email Tara at fan@fanwa.org. She'll be monitoring that. Hopefully it'll all work out. A little tricky.
And Heidi, just a word, just if you don't know, Representative Morgan is the chair of the Members of Color Caucus in the House. And she, of course, is a member of the BMC, the Black Member Caucus as well, but she chairs the Members of Color Caucus, which now numbers close to 20, definitely somewhere between 15 and 20 House Democrats are also members of color. So, and she is a prime sponsor that would establish Juneteenth, a day important to the African-American community for decades, right, in our country, would establish that as a paid state holiday. So you may want to thank her for that bill, and she will probably ask you to help support that as it moves over to the Senate or comes up.
So it did pass the House and it moved to the Senate?
Yeah, it's not quite over in the Senate yet. I don't think it's come up for a vote, but if you're going to be meeting with her or her legislative assistant, they will know. And of course, you can always go to the encyclopedia of the state legislature, you know, the website, and find out. And it's on the FAN Ledge agenda as well. Alice.
Has FAN taken a position on advocating for the Billy Frank Jr. Replacement statue in the Capitol building?
Sure. So this gets to the complications of having a published agenda and not having it be pages long. So Alice is smiling. I hope others of you smile and understand what I mean by that. We, of course, are very supportive of that. I signed FAN in. There's Representative Simmons. She's coming in support of that. So if you don't know about that bill, there is in the Capitol building, meaning the one in Washington, D.C., there is a room of statues, of several rooms, an area where there is a statue from every state. That the current statue for Washington State, I think, was put in place in the 1950s. It's Marcus Whitman. And I think if any of you know anything about your state history, I wasn't born and raised in the state, but anyway, you know about that person and that situation in terms of the interaction, I'll put it kindly, with the Native Americans in the Walla Walla area. But now there is a bill prime sponsored by Representative Lekanoff, who is the only Native American serving in our Washington State Legislature, to remove that statue and put in a statue of the leader from the Nisqually tribe, Billy Frank Jr. Yes, we're supportive of it. And if Representative Simmons is here, please move her into the Zoom room, and I will just do a brief introduction. It is so good to have Representative Simmons with us. There she is in our state legislature. And we've been talking about two of your bills, Tara. We've been talking about House Bill 1078. We've been a proud supporter of that and on the lobby team for that for the last couple of sessions. We're so honored to have you with us and to have you be the prime sponsor of that bill, as well as a bit more difficult bill, but equally challenging, House Bill 1282, the Earned Good Release Time. We've been talking about that as well. So Representative Simmons is from the 23rd Legislative District, Bainbridge Island, parts of Bremerton and Kitsap County, is serving on the House Public Safety Committee, as well as other committees in the state legislature. I've shared with them your being a formerly incarcerated person, and so honored to have you with us. And anyway, I'll shut up and let you speak.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul. You have been such an incredible friend for so many years, and I am so grateful that I now am, more fully engaged in this legislative process and have some extra power to move forward on our shared vision and values and goals. And I just am really grateful to be with all of you today, because this work is really challenging, and this group here I know has got me covered in prayer and is keeping me strong, and it is because of you that I have been able to overcome personal challenges in my life to be where I'm at today. And so thank you for your continued work, your continued prayers, and the strength that you all give to me. Paul's been a great friend, and I know that I can always count on him and all of you as well. So yeah, this is my first session, and it's been hard to learn my job in a virtual world. It's been hard to build relationships. Today I was really happy one of my bills to remove discrimination for healthcare jobs for people with criminal records made it through healthcare committee, and 2 Republicans voted for it, and I was so happy. I had to actually pick up the phone and call them. It's like, hey, I don't know why you voted for my bill, but I'm just really grateful, and I'm really sorry that I haven't been able to break bread with you yet and get to know you, because I really believe in it is when we share our personal stories and we get to know each other, that's how we can build bipartisan support and a common heart to serve and not forget prisoners. I'm a Christian, and the Bible really calls out not forgetting prisoners, and I feel so much that that's what we have done, and that we have this punitive world that doesn't allow for redemption or restoration. And I just know that when I can get down to Olympia and have more conversations with my colleagues across the aisle, on both sides of the aisle, that we'll make more progress. But for this year, I am doing my best from my home, and trying to learn the job, and serving on the Public Safety Committee and the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee. Yesterday, we voted out a bill around legal financial obligations reform. That's the fines and fees that people are struggling to pay. We voted that out, Paul, yesterday. I'm also on the Healthcare Committee and the Rules Committee. Rules is pretty cool. I get to actually help pull my favorite bills, even if they're sponsored by my friends, to the floor for a full vote. And there's a little bit of extra power there in that committee. But one of the, 2 of the bills I've been working most closely with Paul on are the voting rights restoration, trying to give people back, a voice in their communities as soon as they come home from prison. And unfortunately, it often goes down to, well, what did they do? And this is not about what they did. That was taken into consideration in their sentencing. And they were given a period of incarceration based on the seriousness of their crime. And this is about their home now. And we want to, put them on a positive path, and restoring a right to vote and letting them know they're part of our community is a really important first step. And so that bill, in years past was very partisan. This year, we actually got 2 Republicans to sign on. Have 40 co-sponsors. I'm very positive about this bill. We had a great hearing, got it through committee. It is sitting in rules right now. And I think the concern is around how much time it's going to take to vote it off the House floor, because unfortunately, we still think there's going to be people who are not aligned with us. And it is 1078, Darla, I see your comment there. It's House Bill 1078. And so it's definitely, I'm 99% sure we're going to vote it off the House floor, but it's just about when is the appropriate time to do that. So right now it's kind of on hold for a short time. We start, going to the floor week after next, full time for 2 weeks, and it will probably be during that time that bill gets voted off the House floor. The other bill that Paul mentioned is the Earned Early Release bill, and this is really important for a lot of reasons. First, we want to incentivize people to participate in positive programming while they're incarcerated. We want people to actually change their behavior and participate. And I do always flag that for me, it wasn't the programs that were required of me, but for me, what helped me change was the volunteers who came inside the prison and really helped me learn about my own self-worth. and to share God's love with me, and to help me recognize that I wasn't the only person who struggled with a lot of trauma in my childhood. I wasn't the only person that turned to drugs and alcohol to cope with that, and that there were other people like me who had overcome those challenges and who had found a new way of life and were succeeding. And it was those volunteer programs that really helped me change. And, you know, we want to not keep people incarcerated for longer than they need to actually get it and change. And letting them earn time off of their sentence is really a good policy to do that. You know, this particular policy also is really important because for the last 30 years, all we've done in the legislature is create longer and longer sentences and take away more opportunities to earn good time. And that has and we took away parole, we've taken away second chance, you know, reviews, and now, you know, we house people in prisons and just discard them with very little hope and opportunity for release. And that has caused us to only have 4% in our state are Black individuals, but in our prison system, the population is 18% Black. That is something that we should really think about. And for me as a legislator, I'm kind of ashamed of the way we have over-incarcerated Black and Brown communities in particular. This policy will bring our Black prison population down to 11%. So we're going to be making some progress on racial equity, which has been the exact opposite of the course that we have taken. And so I'm really proud about that. It's also going to save our state, not that we do things out of for budget reasons, but this is really important. It's going to save our state about $50 million in the next 4 years by allowing people to earn this time off, which that money is not going to the general fund. It is going to be reinvested into programming and reentry services. And so when people come out of prison, you know, a lot of times they're given $40 and a bus ticket and basically told not to come back. But we're not really investing in people and really helping them be set up for success. And unfortunately, that will create more victims and also create more people coming back to prison. And so we really want to bridge the gap and start investing more in reentry. So by taking some time, letting people earn more time off their sentence and investing it into reentry, we'll have a safer community, a more healthy community, a more just community. And so I'm really, really hopeful for this policy. Today is the executive session. And I'm hopeful that we're going to pass it out of public safety today. And we're going to need a lot of support because other people see this as being soft on crime, or, you know, I can't believe you're letting, you know, X, Y, or Z type of person earn this. These are all people that are coming home anyway. They're not the ones that are doing life without parole. This is people that are coming home, and we are making them become better neighbors when they come home. So I'm going to call on you for your help, for your emails as this process goes on.
Representative Simmons, thank you so much, Tara, for sharing with us. I know you need to run. Do you have time for just a question or two?
Yes.
All right. Anybody raise their hand, or I see the applause hand. That's always good to see. Just raise your hand. There's Helen. She's one of your constituents from the 23rd.
Who's that, Helen?
Yep, Helen Stoll. Yep,
oh, Helen
yep.
Stoll. I got an email from you recently, I think.
Yep. Helen is great. Member at Bethany Lutheran, Bainbridge Island. Anybody have a question for Representative Simmons?
I have a question. I have a question.
Go ahead, Gail. And
yes, I'm from Gail Antigenti, Vancouver, Washington, 17th District, United Methodist Church. What is that? What was that bill 1040 you said?
1282.
Oh, 1282. Okay. I was in the other.
Earned release time.
Yeah, and what about felons that did not go to prison? You know, are they gonna be included in that?
For the earned release time or for the voting rights?
For the voting, for the voting.
Yeah, for the voting rights, they will get their right back right away.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I think that's great. I mean, there's so many people that really, you know, maybe they got too many traffic tickets, maybe they were in a fight with someone that wasn't that bad, or just everything, you know, that really are really good people.
Yes, I agree.
Gail, if you being that you're in the 17th, make sure both of your state representatives hear from you on that. Because this bill will come up probably in the next week or two, and let them know, and urge others from your church to send emails to them as well if they're in the 17th.
I will do that. Please. I will do that.
Let's see, Cinda, and then Terry.
Yes, Cinda Stenger. Anything about eliminating prison labor? Corporations paying rock bottom prices for prison labor.
Yeah, we don't have that here in Washington, where, you know, in private prisons, they have corporations. We do, you know, still people are working for very sub-minimum wages. But it's not to benefit big corporations, because we don't have private prisons here in Washington. So that's a federal level issue. And I think actually Joe Biden recently signed an executive order to get rid of private prisons, which would be great. So yeah, but not here in Washington. We don't have the same issue.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thanks. And Terry, and then Aisha. Terry, you got to come off mute.
And I just want to address Alexandra. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I accidentally put that hand up. I didn't mean to do it.
Okay, all right.
I don't know how to get rid of it.
That's all right. That's all right. Aisha.
Yes, I've looked into the contract that carries the communication when someone incarcerated contacts their family by phone. I understand that the state has a contract that they get a sizable amount of money out of charging really high call rates for communicating with incarcerated people, and the kiosks for long lines for emails, etc.
Yeah, we have made some progress on that. It used to be that, like when I was in prison, I think a phone call was like $12 for like 15 minutes. And now it's, you know, a lot less. And the JPay system for the stamps, I think it's like 50 cents an email. I mean, there's still more progress definitely to be made. But we have made some progress, and I don't know where we're at with any future, like further progress. Nothing this session, but it's something that will definitely be on my radar.
Great, yeah, I'm glad to get that much feedback, because my local rep was kind of like disconnected from it. So great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And
I
Jared,
want to
address Aisha is in the 39th Legislature in Monroe, where the prison, of course, is just in her backyard.
Oh yeah. Yep. I wanted to just make sure I clarified that yes, there is one private prison here, Alexandra, the Northwest Detention Center, which houses our immigrant population, you know, being deported, and it's horrible. And yes, there probably is like prison labor going on there. And we just passed House Bill 1090 out of my committee that will make it illegal to have any private prisons at all in Washington, including the Northwest Detention Center. But there is a period of time before, it's when the contract comes up for renewal, that relationship will end. So
thank you so much. I want to let everyone know that we have time for one more question. I'd like to prioritize one of Representative Simmons' constituents if there's a burning question out there, because we didn't have a chance to make a special meeting for them. And then after that, we need to close out this portion, because we have some legislator meetings that are going to be happening in this space and breakout sessions starting. at 1:15. So any burning question from a constituent?
Just talk. I have not a question, but a compliment, and thank you to Tara for being our representative. We know you're working hard and learning a lot, and we're just so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Oh, I am so grateful to see you, Alice, and it means so much. I think I met you first when I spoke at a Lutheran church event in Paulsbo a few years ago. Never thought I'd be running for office, and you were so kind to me then, and I am just so grateful for you.
Well, I second what Alice and Bruce say.
Thank you, Dee. All right. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you, Representative Simmons. Hope you get time for lunch before the House Public Safety meeting at 1:30.
Oh, yes, that's coming up. Many blessings. Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for being here. Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you all for being here. I think we're going to need to wrap up, but we could probably just keep going. Too bad we can't just all stay. It will be probably easier for those people to access their appointments, though, if we close down. Thanks for your patience with all this process. I mean, Zoom is a huge blessing to all of us, right? And the curse parts of it, we're just working through, and we're all learning. And even if my computer crashed in the middle of this meeting, none of you were lost, and that was so great. If you have further questions about your appointments or just really trying to find your way through the afternoon, go ahead and stay and you can ask those. Just know that these breakout sessions are going to be created for some legislators who needed us to create a room for them. We'll talk about that later. But any final words? I wish we had a final blessing. Be safe, be well, wear your mask, wash your hands, get a vaccine when you can, and let's all be back together in person next year with no snow. Peace.